biggest tip I can give is hyper-personalization. They'll either say it's a distraction, or they'll say, we don't want our salespeople on LinkedIn because recruiters are just going to try and poach them into other sales roles. Open the conversation, several calls, emails, a couple of lunches later, hired to train their company on LinkedIn and social. The more research and information you can find, the more relevant you're going to become.
They view you as an expert rather than commoditize you with the rest of the crowd. Okay, so wherever you're at today, I want you to stop and think about this question. Think about it deeply. Have you ever wondered what it actually takes to be a top 1% salesperson in your industry? Okay, the salesperson who makes all the money, who gets any promotion they want. In fact, they turn down promotions they don't want. They have all the respect of management in the company, ownership. The salesperson who sells and leads by example. Well, my next guest is going to help answer that question for you. Let me give you a small taste of this gentleman's background. He is one of the world's leading authorities on LinkedIn and social selling. So important for you right now. With over 16 years of sales and sales management experience, an audience of over 600, I think it's 625,000 LinkedIn followers now, millions generated from social selling and content reaching millions every month. There are very few out there in the marketplace who have achieved this type of results in that space. He's now on a mission to help as many businesses and salespeople learn how to generate more sales with LinkedIn and social selling. He is the CEO and founder of The Daily Sales, arguably the #1 sales blog on LinkedIn. Look him up, and possibly all of social media. He's also a keynote speaker, social selling trainer, consultant, and author of The Ultimate Guide to Social Selling. Very good book. He's generated over 25 million pounds, that's not dollars, English pounds in revenue directly from LinkedIn from social selling. And he's trained over 1,500 plus salespeople to sell using LinkedIn. He currently resides in the UK, and globally he is recognized as a leading social selling expert. His newest book, The Million Pound LinkedIn Message, is the ultimate guide for anyone looking to generate more clients, customers, and sales using the LinkedIn platform. Let me welcome you to the show, Mr. Daniel Disney.
Jeremy, that was probably the nicest introduction I've ever had. Thank you so much, sir. Very kind of you. Very kind words. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I love the Disney name. You know, my kids are gonna love you, man. They love the Disney stuff. All right, so hey,
no relation. Just before you are.
No relation. All right, let's jump into this because I know the guests are really like they're clawing. They're like, oh my gosh, like we get emails every day from just tons of emails. I bet we get a few hundred a month saying, do you have courses that teach us how to message and sell on LinkedIn? And so now we have Daniel Disney on here. So I love talking with people that understand the game like you do and understand how to use human behavior when you're messaging and social selling, or when you're selling one-to-one or one-to-many, how to use principles and techniques that work with human behavior to become a top salesperson is what you do. So let's dive right into your story. And I want to give our listeners really, let's say, a feel for your background and how you arrived at this point where you're one of the elite authorities on social selling, obviously LinkedIn, sales. Like those are skills you're not just born with. How did you learn all these skills?
It's a true point. I mean, when I started working in sales, LinkedIn doesn't exist. So it's new for me as it is for many. Jeremy, look, I'm a salesperson at heart. I have the heart beating of a hunter salesperson. That's my passion. It was the first job I had when I turned 16 and I was at college. And I climbed the sort of corporate sales ladder throughout my career. I think my biggest thing is about going out there and helping people. You use the word that is so important to me, and that's human. We are humans. We're not salespeople. We're not sales leaders. We're not sales experts. We are people. We go out and we help people. And that's what's, I guess, helped me throughout my career, was that in every sales role I've had and the sales teams I've led, it's always been about helping people, not selling.
So you got into sales, you're helping people. How the heck did you get into like learning how to master LinkedIn? I mean, how did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy story. I was working in B2B sales, as many people out there are. This was about 7, 8 years ago. LinkedIn just started to grow and it
Yeah.
started to get popular. And I had an email from one of my customers saying, "Hey, Dan, I'd like to connect on LinkedIn." And I was like, "What's this LinkedIn?"
What's
Had a
this?
look at it and saw that it was this sort of social media network.
Yeah.
There was a professional social media network, and it had one of my customers in. I soon realized there were others on there. Started to see prospects on there, and the light bulb sort of then went off. And I thought, right, okay, we've got this sort of digital virtual networking arena that has prospects, customers. It's a professional platform. People are sharing
Sure.
knowledge and tips. And so I just started to use it. And the more I used it, the more opportunities I found, the more opportunities I started to create.
Yeah.
Suddenly I was booking meetings through it. I was growing relationships with customers, started to close deals.
Yeah.
The more I did, the more I put in, the more I put in, the more I got out. And here we are several years later. And as I say, my passion is helping other salespeople, sales teams and companies.
Yeah, we're going to dive right into this, because there's a lot of people that try to use LinkedIn that have no idea what they're doing, that fail miserably. We're going to talk about how to change that on here. Now, let's talk about your book. Okay, The £1,000,000 LinkedIn Message. I ordered this about 4 weeks ago, read all of it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Now, I don't want to assume, so I'm going to ask you, why did you write this book and why now? You wrote it in 2019. Why did you write this book?
So 2 reasons. One, as I said, to help salespeople leverage LinkedIn better. But the biggest reason is because my inbox and most of the inboxes of all of my customers and the decision makers I speak to are filled every day with terrible, spammy sales pitch LinkedIn messages. And it is horrendous. And so I wanted to try and create a book that not only shared my story of how I used messaging successful, but also got 25 templates of proper messages that you can send that don't pitch your product. They start conversations, and that's the goal. You're not trying to sell something. You're just trying to talk to people.
Yeah. So you're trying to engage them. You're trying to get them curious enough to want to have a conversation rather than asking a question or whatever and then just pitching your solution. We call those product pushers, right? Can't be a product pusher. You got to be a problem finder and problem solver, not a product pusher. Now, let's talk about social selling. We're going to get more into your book because I've got some chapters I want to talk to you about. We hear, I mean, the latest craze is social selling the last year, especially right now with the pandemic and everything, because a lot of people are going virtual. But in your mind, what does social selling actually mean?
To me, it's leveraging social media and platforms like LinkedIn for selling. So there's a big confusion between social marketing and social selling. And social media generally has always been a marketing tool. Marketers will use it to share content, drive traffic, generate leads, etc. And LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for that. But as I said, I'm a salesperson. I'm a hunter salesperson. I don't want to just share a bit of content, sit back and wait for leads to come. I want to go out and create leads. I want to generate opportunities. So for me, it's about leveraging it to start conversations, not waiting for people to come to you, but going out there and using the tools to find people, connect with them, send them good messages, build all those things that salespeople do on the phone, through email, video, face-to-face. It's just now doing it on social.
And it's all right there. And it's so true. There's so many bad spammy messages, almost make you throw up when you read them, right? So I can see why you're like, I have to write this book because I have to end the madness. I love that. Now, a lot of companies, so I train a lot of companies, a couple of Fortune 500 companies, even one that told me that they don't like their salespeople being on LinkedIn, that it's a distraction for salespeople, pulling them away from revenue generating activities. What are your thoughts on that?
I get that all the time, Jeremy, and it's such a scary reality. And I get it. People, you don't know what you don't know. And there are a lot of sales leaders that don't understand the potential or how to utilize it. So of course, if you're scared of something, I mean, they'll either say it's a distraction or they'll say, we don't want our salespeople on LinkedIn because recruiters are just going to try and poach them into other sales roles. All these sort of fear controlling reactions, they're not going to help you grow. And for me, it's just a case of opening eyes. It's just people that you just need to talk to them, explain to them how it works, how you can manage it and lead it effectively. But the reality is, even if you don't let your sales team use LinkedIn, they will use LinkedIn. You cannot stop them using it. They will go home and they will use it. They're probably using it right now. All you're doing is creating a negative culture that's going to sort of push them away. My advice
to other companies who do use them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Embrace it. Encourage it, support it, nurture it, and you'll be amazed at what you and your team can achieve with it.
And if you're a company, learn the right skills to use it, not just say, oh, go find some business on LinkedIn, right? Because it's a numbers game. Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Oh, sales is a numbers game. Well, okay, partially true, but it becomes a huge numbers game if you don't know the right messaging, if you don't know the right questions to ask when you're talking to your potential customer to get them to want to engage, or messaging them on social media. If you don't understand human behavior and human psychology and sales resistance, because there's certain things you say or ask in one-on-one or one-to-many or messaging and social media that trigger what we call sales resistance. And if you trigger sales resistance by those words you say or the questions you ask, selling will be a numbers game for you, because you're going to really struggle. You're going to have to message 1,000 people to get one person to even take your Zoom call, okay? I'd rather message, let's say 10 people and have 5 people become engaged and curious and work a lot less hours.
100%. I did a post about it today, Jeremy. I literally did a post about this, about activity KPIs and how too many sales leaders focus on the activity and not on the result. I'm the same as you. I would rather have 10 good conversations than try and hit a number of 100, 150, 200 plus.
Make any sense?
A number.
You don't get paid on the more people you talk to. It's more about the quality of the conversation rather than the quantity of the conversation.
Absolutely.
If you want to be the very best at what you do. Now, let's talk a little bit about this. We're in the pandemic, okay? Why is LinkedIn such a crucial platform for sales people to be using right now so they can make more sales?
It's become such a big part of it because people are now more digitally active than they've ever been before. A lot of decision makers weren't in their office at their desk with their phone next to them. They were home with their mobile phone, and very few salespeople had those details. But what they were being more active on is LinkedIn. They were logging in, spending more time, consuming more content, starting to reply to more messages. And so pretty much every salesperson that I've worked with and spoken to, during the pandemic, they've seen huge spikes in engagement, replies, and just general activity of their prospects and customers on LinkedIn. So now, it was already like this. A lot of, decision makers and, your prospects and customers were already active, but this has just accelerated it the same way as accelerated people using video and getting confident using Zoom.
It's multiplied by 100 for sure. And it's never really going to go back in my thought process. And I want to talk a little bit more about this book in just a second, but, it's so important. When this all happened back in March, everywhere, right? It kind of happened in every country. Everybody was shutting down. Nobody knew what was going on. We train a very successful insurance company, and I said, well, we've got to make some pivots because they're scared, because they're like, we only meet in home. Like our clients, we can't go in their homes. Like we're just going to shut down for the next 6 weeks and just wait for it to come back to normal. This was a client I didn't have at that point. Okay. We're trying to get them as a client. And I simply asked, I said, what are you going to do if it doesn't go back to normal though? And that question right there triggered something where they thought, oh crap, what if it doesn't go back to normal? And here we are 6 months later, and it's still not normal. So we had to transition to Zoom meetings, teach them how to sell and communicate, digitally rather than home, and their sales tripled just because they were able to see far more prospects from their home rather than driving an hour here for this appointment and they don't show up, and then driving an hour over here. So it's all about the consequences if you don't do anything. Like if you don't learn how to use LinkedIn as a tool to generate leads for you, what are the consequences of that?
Massively. And there's a high chance your competitors are using it. There's a high chance your prospects and customers are using it. They're active on it. So if you're not there, you're simply missing opportunities. And I like what you're saying. The pandemic's been terrible. It's been a real tough experience for many businesses and sales teams out there, but you can't hide from it. It's there, and it's been great seeing people adapt and evolve.
Yeah, you have to evolve. What are you going to, you have to pivot.
Absolutely. And it's nice to see it happening. And I think a lot of salespeople have embraced it, and it's been amazing to see that progression. And especially on LinkedIn, it's been great to see people. But you made a really good point. You don't just log into LinkedIn and suddenly know how to use it. In the same way, you wouldn't take a graduate, give them a phone and say, go and make some cold calls. You would train them. Well, hopefully you would train them first.
You train them what to say in their messages. You train them what to say on the phone when the other person answers the call, what to ask. You have to have the right skills, because LinkedIn is a competitive environment. Like you said, the owners they're trying to get, the decision makers they're getting spam messages every single, probably 10 minutes. So what separates you from anybody else trying to sell them something?
I'll give you the biggest tip, Jeremy, for anyone who's listening or watching this. Biggest tip I can give is hyper-personalization. It is not enough to just change the name and then send a copy and paste message to lots of people. You need to reference as much relevant, personalized information as you can. And it's easy to find. Go on their profile. It will take you 30 seconds to read their profile and pick out some key information. Go through their activity feed. Look at the content they're engaging in, the content they're sharing. There is gold in that information that you can then include in your message, and you will instantly stand out from 80 to 90% of the rest of the messages.
So true. And I love in your book how you talk about, I can't remember what chapters, you talk about how most people, when they send these messages, they're like 7 paragraphs long, and we do this and we do that. And you're like, we have to shorten those down and like make them really powerful, like 1 or 2 sentences. Because typically when I get an email or a message and it's longer than 2 sentences, I can't even read it. I don't have time. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's the same. A lot of people apply the principles of email. So they'll write a big long email and they'll just copy and paste that template into a LinkedIn message. And it's too long. LinkedIn messaging is like instant messaging. It's like WhatsApp, a Facebook message, a text message. It's got to be short and sweet, but it has to have a reason. There has to be a value to it, to your customer. Not you selling a product, but you solving something for them. And the more you can make it about them, the more likely you are to get a reply. It's simple. It's
Human
simple.
Psychology 101. Now let's talk about the book again. You wrote this book in 2019. Okay. Now, as we all know, both of us know, social media changes rapidly. Okay. Like every couple of weeks, a month or so. What's one thing you would include in this book on social selling using the LinkedIn platform that maybe you didn't even know about in 2019 or really have a firm grasp on when you wrote that book? What's one thing you'd put in there?
So I'll give you a real big insight. I'm nearly finished on my second book, and this is going to be, the ultimate sort of guide for LinkedIn, covering all aspects of it. What I didn't include in the £1 Million LinkedIn message that is going to be in this book is video messaging. So the LinkedIn £1 Million LinkedIn message is very much focused on written messages. It's got written message templates, and a lot of those principles apply to audio and video, but it wasn't covered in that book because it wasn't as big as it is now back then. So for me, that's one of the biggest things that's changed. LinkedIn video messaging has really blown up.
Video messaging is so important right now.
So powerful. It takes your words and it applies it's the closest thing to face-to-face that we have. It gets your prospects and customers a chance to see you, to see your expression. We all know all these things, body language, it makes a huge impact. They can read words in so many ways. They can hear your voice in so many ways, but when they see your face, it adds a whole new layer to it.
Yeah, it becomes more credible. I've been preaching this. I remember back in my sales career, I think it was 2010. And I remember we had a big sales conference in Costa Rica. And I remember I had some sales appointments and I had their number on my phone. And I'm like, they're in the US, I'm in Costa Rica. It's going to cost me $3 a minute to call these prospects. Is there something I can use to get a hold of them? And somebody said, well, you download this thing called Skype. And I'm like, Skype, what's that? So I downloaded Skype, called them, and I was on like video to video. And I'm like, good Lord, I have discovered like the fountain of youth because these people now see me. They don't think I'm some dude from, Latvia or whatever, Ukraine, that's calling them, trying to sell them something. And maybe they don't trust me. They actually see who I am, right? Like I'm this regular just dude. And from that point on, since 2010, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have to use video on these calls. You have to get them on Skype or obviously Zoom now that we have or whatever. Like when you have them on video and they can see you, you don't even necessarily have to see them. If you can see them, even better, because you can read their body language. You can kind of read their facial expressions. It just gives you cues, right? But if they see you, there's just a little bit more of a trust level there because you're a real person. You're not just a voice on the phone.
Massively. And I think going back to what we were talking about, again, a lot of salespeople get told to send video messages. So they switch on their camera and they record and they don't think about some of the details. And I've seen so many, sales videos that lacked a few things, a couple of, top tips. Think about your background. Think about what's behind you. Not many salespeople think about that. I've seen some videos that were sent and they're in a kitchen and there's dirty saucepans and plates and stuff in the background.
They're in the laundry room.
Yeah. Scary little things. And also think about what you're wearing. I've seen some salespeople that are selling quite high ticket B2B items, but they're dressed in a sports hoodie and it doesn't express the same. They wouldn't wear that if they were to go to a client meeting face to face, and video is no different. So it's just starting to, as a basic level, think about your environment, think about what you're wearing, and then just make sure you're looking at the camera and confident in what you're saying. Yeah, it takes a while to get used to video, Jeremy. I'm sure you're the same. It takes a while to get confident in front of a camera. Like you need to get confident in front of a phone. You need to make so many phone calls, practice, practice and just think about the details.
100%. Now, let's talk a little bit more about salespeople right now. So we're in the pandemic. What are you seeing top companies and top sales professionals do right now? How are they pivoting on LinkedIn since the pandemic? In what ways? We talked a little bit about it, but what are some ways they're really pivoting right now using LinkedIn?
One of the biggest ways that I've seen, and I love this, they're building personal brands. So they're starting to get their salespeople to build their own individual audiences and personal brands on LinkedIn, which is fantastic. I think any company that pushes their team to do that, the results are insane. I've seen SDRs with bigger audiences than the company's own page. So you've got SDRs, the very entry-level sales role with tens of thousands of followers, and the company page barely gets past 500. And they're getting 100 times the engagement. They're getting 100 times the messaging, the inbound leads. It's all coming through them. And that's what's been great is that this is, the pandemic has created an environment that's, there is.
They have to learn.
They have to learn. There is less that they can do that they would be doing. So this is one of the outlets, and it's great. And all they're doing is they're just giving value. They're sharing content. They're not preaching. They're not pretending to be experts. They're just sharing their stories, sharing what's happening in their world. And that's what people follow. And
and when they have that type of following on social media, they start to appear when they're in their prospect's mind all the time, because they're seeing pop-ups or lives or whatever. When they're constantly seeing that, it's like it becomes a part of their daily routine, right? It's just like in our Facebook group. When I go live every single day, 7 days a week, our Facebook group, probably just like your LinkedIn group, they start to think this is their daily routine. It becomes part of their culture, right? Like I want them to think about me every single day and what's going on. So it's all about you become, in their mind, more of a trusted authority who can solve their problems, get them the results they want. Whereas other salespeople, they kind of push off to the side. It's kind of like the unpopular cereal that's, kind of pushed off in the cereal aisle that you never see, and they become commoditized. And those salespeople are pushed off to the side and they're treated like, oh, that's just a salesperson trying to sell me something. Whereas what you're talking about is to become more of an authority figure, right? Where they view you as an expert rather than commoditize you with the rest of the crowd.
I'll give you a real example of this, Jeremy, because it honestly blows my mind. When I've worked in sales pre-LinkedIn, where every conversation I would have with a prospect would be me for the next 5-10 minutes, trying to tell them who I am, what I do, trying to win their trust and credibility. Now I connect with some of my prospects that I'm trying to sell to, and that one the other day, I had a high-level CEO for a big company, and I sent a connection request. The message they sent back was, Dan, your reputation precedes you, excited to chat. To have someone at the top, the decision maker, reply with a message like that you're so far ahead of other salespeople. Like you say, you are the most popular cereal at that point. Everyone else is a salesperson.
Your eye-level cereal right in the middle there.
I love that. That's it. The cereal example. I'm going to use that now. It's brilliant.
Now, can you share with it? Now, we get I love doing tactical training on here because our listeners, I think they're used to like some shows on selling that really talks about theory and, it sounds good, but they get off of the podcast and they're just like, well, that sounds good, but I don't know what to do, right? So can you share with us maybe a few questions that you teach companies or salespeople to ask while messaging a prospect on LinkedIn early in that conversation? Like, what are those questions? Maybe one or two. Why do they need to be asked? And when you ask them psychologically, what is that doing to the prospect that makes them want to engage?
Yeah, I love that. Great question. I think for me, it's about having conversations that aren't necessarily directly focused on your product or service. So one of the best ways I teach is, again, go through their content, and you'll find a lot of prospects tend to share content or at least reshare other people's content. And I would use that to ask a question about that reference. What are your thoughts on that subject? What are your thoughts on that bit of content? Or you shared this video, what are your experience about it? Talk about something that they're clearly interested in and potentially passionate about, and explore it in a bit more detail. Again, try and sort of guide that conversation to a point where you're able to start to ask pre-qualifying questions. But if you jump in too early, trying to talk about your product or service, they're going to feel sold to. And like you say, that's when those barriers start to come up. But if you can sort of almost navigate it round the side and almost warm it up to a point. One of the other best ways I like to start conversations is when prospects view your profile. So you can see who's viewed your profile on LinkedIn.
What would you do? So they view your profile. What would be the first thing you would say to that prospect when you message them? You see that they viewed XYZ John Smith viewed your profile. What's your next move?
So I had a CEO and a sales director of the same company view my profile. I messaged them. It was 3 hours that they'd seen my profile and I checked my profile views. I sent them a message and it simply said, "Hi, thanks for looking at my profile. I'd love to know what your company's doing in the world of social selling. Kind regards, Dan." I had a reply from the managing director within 5 minutes saying, "Dan, it's funny, we were just talking about it today. We use it quite a bit, but we're interested to see if we could use it more. Would you mind arranging a call with my sales director and just having a chat about it?" Opened the conversation, several calls, emails, a couple of lunches later, hired to train their company on LinkedIn and social selling. Now, what I'd found out, they had that conversation, viewed my profile, and then they got pulled away with all the other fires that they had to put out that was going on in the sales team. Now, I may never have had a message from them. They may never have come to me asking for my help. It might have been one of those conversations they had, an idea, something that they wanted to look into.
Sure.
But because I was proactive, and this is where the whole hunter salesperson come in, check those profile views, and then just send a light, friendly message. Nothing like an aggressive sales pitch, just a friendly, love to know who you're currently utilizing, what you're currently doing. It doesn't have to be about your product. It could be about something else.
So let's say if they sold, just give you an example. Let's say if they sold cybersecurity and just, whatever. Somebody views their profile. What do you think would that first message be back? You gave us the template. Give us that template again. I want to make sure everybody writes that down.
Yeah, definitely. So Jeremy, let's say you messaged me, you worked in cybersecurity, you viewed my profile. I'd probably send you a message like, "Hey, Jeremy, thanks for viewing my profile. Love to know, you currently using a cybersecurity software system within your business? Keen to understand which one you're using at the moment." Now, there's a high chance they're going to read that. Everyone likes to help. It's like asking for directions. So they're very unlikely to go on your profile and actually check that you work for a cybersecurity software company. So they'll probably reply with, "We use this," or "We don't use one at the moment." You've got a reply, you've got a conversation, you can then start to explore it further. If they don't reply, this is where platforms like audio and video messaging come in, because they work great for follow-ups. Send a quick little audio message. "Hey, Jeremy, I'm sure your inbox is full of messages, as is mine. Just wanted to see if you've got my above message. Would love to know what cybersecurity software you're using at the moment." Little things like that. You'd be surprised at how many replies then come back, but it's just keeping it soft, keeping it light.
So keeping it low key, relaxed, conversational, right? You're so right. Like in the world of selling, whether it's social selling messaging, whether it's talking one-on-one to a prospect, the reason why so many salespeople are met with resistance and objections, the number one reason is because they try to present and talk about their solution too early in that conversation before first they've ever established if that person has a problem or what the root cause of that problem is, and then how that problem is actually affecting them, okay? When you present your solution too early in that conversation, you're immediately gonna get objections. You're immediately not interested. We already have that. Let me get back to you. Or they're just not gonna respond to you, especially on social selling, right? So you have to really focus on really problems that they might associate that they would know about, right? So let's say if it's cybersecurity or whatever it was, or insurance or whatever, what are 2 or 3 generic problems that most prospects you talk to know about in that industry and space? You want to focus more on the problem, potential problems they might have. Don't assume they have problems. If you start assuming, you're dead in the water, especially in a B2B, more complex area. Like they're just not even going to respond. But you have to focus on generic problems that they would know about, and then get that conversation going. And then when it's appropriate, ask, would it make sense for us to have a brief conversation to see if what we're doing could possibly even help you? Okay. So it's more soft. It's more relaxed. Okay. Not pitching. I hate the word pitching. You gotta ditch the pitch. We have t-shirts in our company that says #ditch the pitch, right? You have to ditch the pitch, especially in our day and age.
You really do. And just to, we're talking about the messaging bit here. There is a way you can accelerate the chance you'll get a reply, or accelerate the chance you're going to get them coming to you. And that is by giving value. So the whole point of you need to have a good profile, by the way, before all of this. So if you're going to message them from a profile view, make sure your profile's good, because if your profile's not good, they're probably not going to reply anyway. So you need to make sure your profile's presented for your customer. Biggest mistake, a lot of salespeople have a profile that's about them, talks about how great they are at selling. Guess what? Your customers don't really want to know.
They don't care.
Yeah, make it about them, how you help people, etc. But then what you want to do is give value. So 2 ways you can do that really easily. Number 1, share content of value. So if you're selling in the cybersecurity space, for example, share content on a regular basis that has insights, knowledge, tips, stories, everything relevant to your cybersecurity decision makers. Number 2, engage in their content. So if you see them looking at your profile, jump onto their profile, look at their activity, chuck a couple of likes and maybe a couple of comments in some of their posts, and because that feels good. When someone does that to you, it feels great. Do that for your
the likes in the post. 100%. Yeah. So you're basically going over how what you do helps other people solve their problems. That's what you're doing. 100%. All right. Okay. So that is amazing. I love that. Now, how can salespeople leverage LinkedIn without spending hours per day on it? I think that's a big concern. I go into companies, they're like, man, our salespeople are on the floor. They don't have 4 hours a day to get on LinkedIn. How can they do that without so much time putting into it?
There's a bonus chapter in the book at the end, and it's social selling in 15 minutes a day. And there are 3 activities I recommend, and I'll share those 3 activities now. It goes into more detail in the book, but 3 key activities that make a huge difference. And honestly, I've seen salespeople do 5-10 minutes a day with these activities and generate huge results. So at a basic level, this is the best place to start. So number 1, 5 minutes, grow your network every single day. Just 5 minutes, add 5-10 new connections. They build up. Bigger your audience, make sure they're prospects and other relevant people within your industry and prospective companies, but grow your audience every day. Number 2, engage in content every day. So every day, 3, 4, maybe 5 industry relevant posts, click a like and add a comment. So every day your prospects and customers are logging into LinkedIn and they're seeing your name starting to appear every day, commenting on industry relevant posts. Then number 3, the most important one, every day try and share a post. Create your own content every day. And it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to write a little story, to share a couple of tips, to take a photo, to take a short 2 to 3 minute video. Doesn't take long, but it's you giving value. Make sure it's always giving value. And again, every day, your prospects and customers are going to see you on LinkedIn. Your audience is going to grow every single day. Your name's appearing several times and you're giving value through your content. The impact that can make at a basic level is massive. And that's 15 minutes, Jeremy. I'm pretty sure most
people can dedicate 15 minutes, especially because it's going to build. It's almost like you said, you're building your brand, like you're building your personal brand. You work for a company. Let's say you sell for a company, but you're setting yourself apart as more of the authority figure because people are seeing you every single day. You become part of their life, their day-to-day routine. They're seeing, the daily sales blog, like they see this thing every single day. And that's why it grows, because you're part of their life. You're part of their community, right? And they're becoming part of your community.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Your community, your tribe, your following. But the key is the giving, Jeremy. Honestly, so many companies and sales teams, when they use LinkedIn, they're just talking about themselves. Here's our product. Here's our features and benefits. Here's our testimonials. It's about you and it's not valuable. You need to flip it around. Just give value. Share content. It's not promoting you or what you sell, but it's valuable to your prospects and customers. And they will receive that. They will feel grateful for that. And they will start to appreciate you as someone who gives value. When you give value, you get value back.
I love that. Now let's talk about the future of social selling. What's your advice on the future of social selling? Like, what does that look like in your mind?
Main thing is going to be video. Video is growing massively on LinkedIn. I mean, video messaging is growing at an extreme rate, but we've now got things like LinkedIn Live, where you have the opportunity to come in and deliver live video sessions to your prospects. And imagine that as a salesperson, jumping into your audience full of prospects and decision makers live with an industry expert, giving valuable tips and insights. Things like that are massively powerful. So, video is going to play a big part. And I think it's going to be a continued growth of personal brands. Like I say, we've got SDRs all the way up to AEs, account managers, building these amazing personal brands that are more powerful than the marketing department's corporate brands. So the rise of personal brands in video, for me, are going to play a big part in the coming 3 to 5 years in the world of social.
I think it's huge. And it's so true. We do a lot of those in our Facebook group. So we'll bring in clients, we'll get them on Zoom and we'll just go live in the Facebook group with our clients and them talking about their challenges and the problems they had before our training, like what was their present situation at that point. And now here's where they're at right now once they went through the training. And those are so powerful because it's me and that person talking mano to mano, just sharing experiences and challenges that were met and then solutions that happen. And here's where we're at right now. And you can have the same type of results as well. Video is so powerful. Now, what's a few specific things that a salesperson can do using the LinkedIn platform to win accounts, let's say in the down economy that we're at right now, that most salespeople just are not doing on LinkedIn because everybody's on LinkedIn. So what are a few things, and we've talked briefly a little bit, what are a few more things that they can do to win accounts in a down economy where the buyers is more hesitant about making decisions. We have to realize buyers are more hesitant than they've ever been because companies are not thinking 2 or 3 years down the road strategically. They're thinking 90 days because there's uncertainty, right? There's risk. So what are a few things that a salesperson can do using LinkedIn to really win accounts in that down economy when buyers are thinking that way?
2 things, effort and creativity. So number 1, make an effort, do your homework, go and do some research. Like I said, research their profile, research their content, go on the company's website. Don't just research them, research other people in the company. A lot of salespeople will focus on their target decision maker, but check out everyone else in the team because they'll all be sharing different content.
Well, there's more than one decision makers in these companies, right? There's what, 6 to 9 on average?
On average, yeah, exactly. And again, not just the decision makers, but other people in different departments and different parts of the team. The more you can do your homework, go and make a bit of effort. The more research and information you can find, the more relevant you're going to become. So effort is number 1. Next is creativity. Be creative. Find unique ways that you can then communicate that to them. It might be through a LinkedIn message. It might be by recording a video. Bring in some humor to it. Maybe use something physical. I had an accountant send me a letter last year, and they sellotaped a pound coin to a letter, and they said, Dan, here's a pound. I'd love to help you save more from the tax man. Kind regards, accountant. Instantly stood out. No one else has sent me anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's be creative, make an effort. You'll find so many opportunities. I had someone send me, I wrote a post about a chocolate bar that I really wanted to have, but I couldn't find in any shop. Someone went and found one and posted it to me. What's the cost of that? It's nothing to win a customer. Little things like that. So yeah, effort and creativity. 99% of salespeople aren't doing either of those things.
Yeah, I love that. Now, hey, Dan, I can't thank you for being on the show. Great information for our listeners to go out and actually use after they hear us. Now, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners?
Consistency would be my last thought. If you're going to go and start leveraging LinkedIn, just use it consistently. Like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym once a month and see results. You need to be doing it on a consistent, regular basis. So my advice, go and use LinkedIn. Use it to learn, use it to network, use it to sell, but just make sure you show up on a regular basis. It's the only way you're going to get some real results from it. But
have you ever noticed that? A lot of people will start posting. You'll see their post 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then nothing.
And they're gone.
No consistency.
No consistency.
100%. Now, here's what I want to know. Where can our listeners learn about these skills? Like this is a must they have to have. Where do they need to go to learn more about you and your training on social selling and using LinkedIn? Like where can they go? Because they're going to want that.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, ironically enough. I'm on LinkedIn. Come and check me out. I have quite a unique name, Daniel Disney, red t-shirt. You'll find me pretty easily. My website's danieldisney.online. The book's available on Amazon, but I'm sharing content, obviously, every single day, trying to help salespeople with LinkedIn and social selling. And I have lots of opportunities and resources to kind of help with that. So if I can help, come and check out my content and pop me a message if you have any questions.
Can they follow you on Daily Sales?
Yeah, Daily Sales is a lot of humor-based and covers all areas of selling, memes, quotes, humor-based content to try and help bring a bit of light to the sometimes stressful world that is sales.
I love that. So Daniel Disney, is it danieldisney.com?
.online, danieldisney.online.
danieldisney.online. We'll post that here with the show notes for everybody. And you can also follow him on LinkedIn. And obviously join his blog, Daily Sales, that has like 625,000 followers. Congratulations, Dan. Helping a lot of people. Thank you for being on the show. Loved it.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Now, if you're serious about joining the top 1%, I mean the top 1%, and you want to experience more training content just like this, click the links right over there. Right over there, they're exactly what you need to see next. You see, I release new episodes featuring top salespeople and sales authorities, multiple 6-figure, high 6-figure, even 7-figure earners every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday every single week at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're new here, do yourself a favor and smash that subscribe button right below, and join our new Facebook group, Sales Revolution. You see, it's free, and there's a link in the description below just for you. We put it there for you. Finally, I make posts on Facebook and Instagram each and every day with more tips and training, so be sure and follow me and turn on your notifications. So make a comment in the first 7 minutes to any of my latest posts, share this episode, And there's a very real chance that you're gonna win some killer prizes. And here's the thing, don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be like everyone else. Get into the game. Join the sales revolution. Stay active, get involved, learn the right skills, and we will show you how to take your life and income to a level that most only dream about. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.